Greetings, this is Sean. Today I'm going to be building this desk chair. It's a miniature captain's chair for a friend of mine. Her name is Ara over at Bentley House Minis, and it's for a diorama that she is doing, and I will put a link to her channel in the description as well as up above. Anyway, that black spot there in the middle of the seat there is a magnet, and you'll see what it comes in for later. It's actually part of a tilt and swivel mechanism that I'm creating for this chair, and that piece there is the cover for it. And the Q-tip looking thing is actually a sanding Q-tip. It actually has a sanding grit on it, and what I'm doing is grinding down that piece there so that I can fit it over the magnet with no space. You can see the little hinge that's there that I've attached to it, and that's a 1/16 inch piece of wood there that I've got the hinge attached to, and the seat is made from a 1/8 inch thick piece of plywood. I'm sorry, a 1/4 inch thick piece of plywood. And here I'm just marking where the hinge is going to attach to another 1/8 inch block, and I'm cutting out a spacer for it so that it sits level and flat against the hinge that's attached to the smaller piece below it. I had the hardest time getting my camera to focus. I've got a new camera that I'm trying out, and unfortunately it doesn't focus the way I was hoping it would. Anyway, that is a small bearing that I got off of an old VCR, and it's a 5/16 outer dimension. The inside dimension is 3/16 of an inch, which I don't show, and it's 3/32 of an inch thick, just to give you an idea of how big it is. And later on I'm going to create a pedestal, which you'll see that will attach to that bearing so that it'll allow it to swivel, the chair to swivel. And here I'm just using a piece of dowel so that I know how big to make the pedestal later on in the video, showing that it swiveled. Here I'm just gluing on the hinge to that extra block that has the bearing inside of it. And I'm using toothpicks here to create the spindles that'll go on these armrests that I've made. I didn't show the making of, I forgot to record the video of the making of the armrests, as well as the chair and the backrest that you can see there down in the lower left. Anyway, I'm just drilling out the holes. There are 11 spindles, including the one that's already attached, which is a little bit bigger in size, just to give it a little bit of extra support for where the captain will put his hands. And here I'm gluing all the pieces in place. And I actually used 2 cameras this time, so you can see a little bit more eye level how I'm doing my work. Those, like I say, those are just toothpicks that I'm gluing in place. There you can see in the upper left-hand corner the extra camera that I'm using for those shots. I'm not going to show both of them. I'm only going to show one because the other armrest is done exactly the same way as I'm doing this one here. I'm gluing all the pieces into the armrest first, and then I will drill the holes into the seat to attach the armrest. Wish I had figured out a different way of doing that. It was kind of tedious to try and do this the way I did it, but it worked. It's a little bit crooked in times, but hey, it's homemade, handmade. There I had already drilled the holes. I'm just erasing pencil lines that I had drawn onto the seat. And here I'm just giving it a nice good sand to get rid of some extra lines and extra cracks and stuff that were on the surface. If I had thought about it differently, and really, I should have done this a different way, but it turns out okay. But I would wanted those armrests, and you can kind of see me every once in a while try to bend the armrest to the outside of the chair. I meant to have those spindles going in an angle so that the armrest was actually on the outside of the chair perimeter instead of there right on top of it. So there would have been a lot more room on this actual seat. And here one of the spindles was actually a little bit too long, so I just kind of shaved it down a little bit and re-glued it. And now I'm just going to put some glue into the holes that are on the seat. That extra hole that you see in the top of the armrest is for where the backrest will go. You'll see that later on. And there's one arm done. Now here I am in my shop. This is my lathe, and I'm going to turn the pedestal here. That is a 1/2 inch thick oak dowel that I will turn down to a better shape, to the shape. You'll see what I mean. What I've done is I took a piece of dowel so that it wouldn't be too tall and measured it out, and that's 1 inch from that I measured out, and that's how long the pedestal needs to be. And needs to be about 1/4 of an inch, or the 3/16 of an inch thick, so that I can stick it into the bearing that's there. That's what I'm measuring out right now. And now this is completely improvised. I have no plan in mind. Just whatever happens to come out, comes out. Just trying to make it look kind of decorative. So the right-hand side will actually be at the top, and the left-hand side will be the bottom of the pedestal, where the legs will attach, which you'll see me cutting out next on my scroll saw. Here I am measuring again to make sure that I've got it long enough. I'm just moving the tool rest out of the way so I can give it a good sanding, so it'll be nice and smooth, nice finish. And that's the finished piece there. Now, here I am scrolling. There's actually 4 pieces of 1/8" plywood all stacked together. So that bundle's about a 1/2 inch thick. And this is just something I just drew out, and I'm cutting this out here. Cutting all 4 pieces so that they're all the same shape, all the same size. So much easier to do it that way. Now at one point, you're going to see here in just a second, I kind of let go and it starts to bounce up and down. I had sneezed right here. I had sneezed and let go of the block is why it did what it did. It was kind of funny. Scared me. But anyway. And then you'll see here in a minute, I forgot to keep my finger on top like I did there. And all the pieces just scattered as soon as it hit this one part here. Boom. Anyway, got all the pieces together. There's the 4 legs all cut out. All the same shape. Those will attach to the bottom of the pedestal, as you'll see in a minute. And I think I had an old bottle of that E6000 because it just didn't work very well. But anyway, here I am gluing it on the pedestal onto the bearing. Sorry it's down at the bottom. I have a bad habit of that. And I ended up filling that cavity there where I'm putting the toothpick with some super glue to hold it in place because that E6000 just didn't stick very well, and I didn't show that on here. I didn't think it was necessary. That brass piece that you see there right next to it, I intended originally to have this be a telescoping chair to where you could adjust the height on it, but I decided not to. For lack of, I'm not going to explain why, I decided not to do it that way. So here I am gluing the legs onto the pedestal. I started out trying to use tacky glue to make this work, but the surface of the pedestal is so smooth that it just would not stick very easily to that pedestal. So I ended up using super glue, as you'll see here in a second. There, I'm showing that it does turn. You can see the sticky note down there on the right hand side. That was my original drawing for how the feet were going to look, but then I fancied it up a little bit. Even the super glue had a hard time sticking to that piece of wood. I ended up using accelerator to keep it sticking. I didn't show it, but I ended up putting a couple of nails in the hinge too to help it stay, because that piece kept breaking off of the block. The hinge did. So I ended up putting a couple of little nails into it just to help it hold steady. Anyway, there's the legs, and as you can see, it is off a little bit, so I was able to adjust it, make it fit properly, and re-glued it, which you'll see me do here in a minute. But it's quite a bit off, and that was because that one piece that had the white glue on it just didn't sit right, the tacky glue. You can see it bending there. So anyway, I finally got it to where it ended up being crooked as a result of it not gluing properly. But it's meant to be an old chair that he's been sitting in for a long time, so who knows, maybe the he's worn it out to the point where now it's crooked, and I don't know. I'm going to end up leaving this unfinished and unpainted as also, because Era wants to decorate it herself, so we'll let her come up with a story for why it's crooked. Good luck, Era. And there you can see it tilting. Now it does tilt all the way back, and you'll see here at the very end I remedy that. But here I am getting ready to put the back on. I didn't do anything fancy with the back. There's the 2 holes in the armrests that are going to hold that up. And I end up drilling a couple more holes in the actual seat to come up to form the back of the chair. But there wasn't very much room and it didn't look good, so you'll see here in a little bit I end up sanding the armrests where those 2 are at to kind of open the back up a little bit more. It'll make more sense here in a little bit. And then of course I'm using toothpicks, trying to get an idea of where I want to drill the holes. And I'm just making the hole a little bit bigger with a bigger drill bit. That's what I'm doing here. See here I'm sanding off that little edge right there where the toothpicks were actually hitting the armrest. So just to give it some extra room, kind of round it off. Made it look a little bit better too, in my opinion. And then I end up gluing the toothpicks themselves to the back, to those armrests, so that they'll stay in place better. I probably could have put a board or something across the back there to help support those, but it's really not really necessary, not really needed. You'll see it's pretty sturdy. I've just put glue instead. Okay, give it some time to dry. Now I'm just going to line up those toothpicks with the backrest there. And I'm just making some vertical marks on to line up where the holes are going to be, and then I made a straight line across, because basically those 4 toothpicks are a straight line. And so that's where I know where to drill holes for them. Really simple. Sanding it down to get rid of the pencil marks, and just drilling holes. ended up doing something weird here. My drill bit kept turning in my pin vise, so I just held on to the drill bit and turned the piece of wood. It worked a lot better, a lot easier actually. So I need to get a new pin vise. Again, I couldn't get it to focus. Crappy camera. Anyway, just putting a little bit of glue on to hold it down, and we should be done. Putting in some extra glue for the holes were a little bit bigger than the toothpicks, just to fill it in. Anyway, that's the desk chair, swiveling, tilting desk chair. Oh yeah, I forgot. I ended up putting a couple of extra toothpicks in the back, drilled a couple of holes so that the chair wouldn't go back too far. There you can see the two holes on the left and right side of the hinge. And I just ended up sticking a couple of toothpicks to a length to where it came down. Well, you'll see. Anyway, I want to thank Ara for giving me the opportunity to help her with her project, and be looking for her video that she's going to produce when she finishes it and puts it with her desk that she's going to create, that this chair will become a part of. And anyway, as soon as I get a link from her, I will attach it to this, and please go and check her stuff out. She's got some really good videos, lots of good tutorials. I don't really do tutorials, as many of you know. I just basically show you what I do. So anyway, have a better day, as I always say.